Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. Our phones are ringing off the hook. Let's take this call and we'll come back and talk about the 75%. Also, the reason that 14.5% was agreed in the last triennium and now you have gone down to 4%. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening. How you doing?
Very good.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the female caller before the last one, she said that she's baffled at the fact that the executive accepted $75 high-risk allowance. I am even more baffled at her because what I'm saying, of course, I do agree that $75 high risk, when you put the two terms together, they don't mesh. $75 high risk, they don't mesh. But what the female caller failed to realize is after so many years in existence, this is the very first time that that we were able to get the employer to give us a high risk allowance, and this is something that should be commended. This is the very first time. So now that it is on the books, the only thing that can be done is for us to negotiate for it to be higher. I pray and hope that that female caller was not a police officer, because I'll be baffled at her intelligence. And I would like to say to my colleagues who are listening that it is disappointing to hear how some of them have tarnished the name of Mr. James, one of our very own, whether by social media or word of mouth. The last time I checked, we the police are leaders. We are trained to investigate, gather evidence, and prove our case. Yet, here are some of us, our own, casting judgment on Mr. James.
Is that a reflection of the quality of the officers in the force then?
You know, well, honestly, if Mr. James is a sellout, then they need to call all the other officers who were in attendance at the meeting sellouts, because it was through our vote that the executive got the mandate to accept the 4% in added benefits. I am disappointed. I even once, before I hung up, even once I heard a police officer said, oh, I feel like a dog on the street, civil servants call it the sellout. I said, you're a police officer. If you want to feel like a dog, go ahead. No civil servant can call me dog. I will arrest them. I will arrest them. I'm a police officer, and I will hold my head up high.
I sure hope that you won't arrest a civilian because they call you a dog. Because I know
no. Honestly, I am just trying to be.
I know
very,
say,
you know what I'm
saying,
talking about, Mr. Reynolds? It just hurts me to see how some of us are acting the way they're acting with our own colleagues. They should stop that. Go to the welfare office. Come to the meetings when it is called. Come to the meetings when it is called. Let your voice heard and stop this type of weary acting. We're professionals, we're leaders. My officers, stop it and let us lead by example.
All right, thanks a lot. Now let's go to the 14.5%, and that point was raised as well. 14.5 then and now. Just before we take that call, just let me have the representatives go through one point, then I'll take you. Okay, just hold on for me, please.
With regard to the 14.5%, when we were negotiating that, it did not come across to us that it was not affordable. Okay, during that period. After the employer, the then employer, agreed.
Well, it's the same employer, just different administration.
Yes. When the employer did agree to pay it, I mean, up to that point, we did not have the information to convince us that he couldn't pay it. However, when it was time to pay, that's when the employer approached that matter, his inaffordability to pay, in a matter that's inconsistent with the provisions in the agreement. And to just come out and suggest to us that you cannot pay, and the manner in which it was done, it was not just disrespectful. I mean, it was hurtful. If you have an agreement and you are an employer, we expect you to lead by example. And come sit with us and say, okay, I know I agreed to pay you that amount. However, due to certain changes or challenges or unforeseen circumstances, or if it was a matter that they miscalculated, they thought they could have, when in fact they could not have, they could have sat with us and discussed with us. And then it would be easier from there to appreciate his perspective. And in fact, at that time, the manner in which he came across, it was difficult to even believe the employer. It was difficult.
Well,
The employer then was not convincing that he couldn't pay.
well, you got paid, so there was not at the end of the day an inability
And
to
not that
pay.
alone. Given what transpired after the employer did pay, even going towards the elections, the amount of money that was going around the place, I'd be lost if somebody tell me they couldn't pay.
We have a caller holding for us. Thanks very much for your patience. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, very good night to you.
To you too.
Mr. Moderator, and good night to Mr. James and Mr. De Leon.
Good night.
I think, well, Mr. De Leon, Mr. James they have done a good job. I need to commend them on the job well done. Well, I, in that regard, I've been an ardent member of the negotiating team, well, representing the police. And I must indicate that we have fought tooth and nail to ensure that the mandate of our police officers were brought to the fore. Let me just indicate that I think right now, with the state of affairs, I believe in what is, even in what is to come. And I've articulated that to Mr. James. I think this was not just something that happened overnight. I think this was something that was to come. And I want to encourage that as police officers, and Mr. James alluded to that the protective services need to come together to represent its members. Let me bring that into perspective. If, for example, the other unions decide not to accept government's offer and they decide to go on strike, what would be the position of the police, the fire service, and the correction services? Are we going to go the way of the other unions and decide to go on strike? I think these are issues we need to weigh. Now, the reason why the police accepted the 4% was, as Mr. James indicated, was because we got a mandate from our members, and we did just that. I think in every organization, there must be strong leadership. And I must say, this is what was shown in the persons representing the police force.
I must speed you up though, caller, because we're almost out of time. So let me speed you up. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just wrap up.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, strong leadership was shown, and even at the meeting, you know, we let them know that, look, whatever you articulate to us, we are going to bring it back to the TUF and let our voices know. So whatever it is that we accepted on behalf of the police was because we thought it was a reasonable offer, and that whatever we got for them was going to bring some form of comfort to our police officers. So I want to thank Mr. James, Mr. De Leon, and the other members for working tirelessly day and night for ensuring that our police officer get at least something substantial, you know, to go home with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, would there be any overtures on your part? Because you said since then you have not communicated with the leadership of the TUF. Would there be any overtures on your part to ensure that, you know, there is calm and, you know, this whatever situation is there is swept under the bridges, water under the bridge? Let's just take this call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead quickly because we're running out of time.
Good night. I just need to know, since TUF accepted the proposal, will the rest go to arbitration, or will that will settle with arbitration, or what will happen? Will the strike be called, depending on the rest?
Well, from what I'm hearing, most of the others have accepted. The only holdout right now, as far as my information, is the CSA. So it's left to be seen what happens, and probably you can provide some clarification. Thanks a lot for that call, question.
Thank you.
It would be very interesting to see Mr. Monroe's wearing his TUF cap, you know, because this is a TUF position as it stands, you know, so
Yes.
it would be very interesting.
We have another call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead. And I think our producer has given us a few extra minutes, so I want to use them very judiciously. Good evening.
Yes. I just want to say thanks to the two gentlemen for the way they handled the situation. And they make me feel proud to be a St. Lucian because they put country first and not self. And I think the police force should applaud them, all the members of the force. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very kindly.
Yes.
In relation to the workers, especially those at the CSA, I have a lot of confidence in the workers of this country, and I say it over and over. I'm very confident that given the information, they will make the right decision. And I think as a group of workers in this country, each one need to speak to the other, BB each other, text each other during this week before Friday, and share all the information, share the facts, and allow them to consider the information that we, the police, had, and I'm sure probably the teachers in more recent time and the fire service. Whatever it took to get them to the point that they could appreciate that, hey, the 4% is the best thing presently. I think we need to share that information with our colleagues at the CSA and not focus so much on arbitration, what have you. Let's just work with them. Let us pray for this country and let's do our best to share information. I'm confident that once they have the information, they will do what's right.
Thanks for holding, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just want to ask Mr. James one question.
Yes, sir.
I remember after the 14% was accepted, when negotiations began for this period, and negotiations is going on now, wasn't a 10% offer made? And I don't know if Mr. James can remember his exact words to his members when this offer of 10% was made. I am wondering why
On whose part? Sorry.
10%,
Who offered 10%? Sorry.
the government at the time offered 10%.
That was when the 14.5 was agreed. You talking
After
about?
the 14.5
We're
was,
talking about this new period of, you mean 2010, 2013 period?
10% was offered by the government.
Are you talking about the previous negotiation or this present?
not the previous negotiation. Negotiations for this period.
For this period.
2010, 2013, yes.
Yeah, the negotiations for the period where the 4% is accepted.
And government offered 10%?
10%. Can Mr. James at that time remember his words?
I'm a bit lost, caller. What I could tell you though is, and as I told you, on the 29th of October, it was the government had asked that we present our proposals for negotiation, and the Police Welfare Association presented theirs on the 29th of October 2010. Since then, we've only recently started talking and negotiating the benefits with and salaries with financial implications. All what we've negotiated with non-salary benefits and conditions. So I have not, the government has never presented 10% to us and we rejected or we've accepted it.
We have another call. Good evening. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Clinton.
Good evening,
MJ,
sir.
and to the layer.
Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Mr. Martin James.
Yes, sir.
In the contractual about to sign it, because I understand he did sign it, right? With the GNT.
Yes.
I heard you talk about the risk
I didn't
factor.
get
He said he understands that the collective agreement has not been signed as yet.
Which collective agreement?
The one with the GNT for this present negotiation.
Who with the GNT? Who?
The Police Welfare Association.
Yeah.
Have you not signed the collective agreement?
Yes, we've signed it. We've signed it.
But
It's in a draft form.
Okay, I remember draft and then
We finalized. We have finalized negotiations.
Okay, now let me tell you. In that agreement, did you all have any things, for example, for insurance for the police force, for the police and so on?
Insurance for the police force.
Did you all, I mean, in the agreement you all have it and whatever things you all asked for?
Insurance?
I mean, benefits. Did you all for example, ask for insurance for the police? I want to know.
We have other
You picking up?
As part of the negotiation, he's asking, did you ask as a condition insurance for police officers?
Oh, we've had that on the books for a little while. I think it's Article 29 that speaks to the employer shall provide insurance coverage for all police officers in the event that they get hurt or even gets their death in the execution of their duties. And to that end, what supports that, we have always raised the issue of the Protective Services Compensation Act, and I could tell you, and all the members know that, and we are indeed pleased that the committee has been set up, and I could remember the chairperson of that committee is it Hill?
Okay,
Hill
all right.
Fadituville is the chairperson of that committee,
It's in place.
and we've educated our members and informed our members that. And that the Protective Services Compensation Act is it makes provision for you getting injured on duty and what have you.
You have another call. You have another question.
So that's concern, because for so long I've been hearing that. You can't tell me you're a policeman, you're driving a police vehicle or motorbike. The vehicle is insured and not the policeman. I feel that is totally. I'm probably sure. So I'm glad now they say that is in motion. I only hope it's on the table. So. Take care, my brother. Have a nice day.
All right, thank you very much, caller.
I didn't get that.
Okay. He's just talking about, the conditions of work and the fact that sometimes you drive in vehicles and they're not insured and that kind of thing. So he was just lamenting that aspect of it. Now, something that I wanted to bring up, there's a situation between, going on in Jamaica right now where the unions there, the public sector unions, have accepted a wage freeze, and we know of the situation in Jamaica where the IMF has stepped in, and there are certain fiscal decisions that have been made, and they have to follow certain courses to ensure that they do not sink further into debt. So, I wanted to know whether that influenced your decision to go ahead but let's take this call and then we'll ask that question. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Hi. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, evening. Please go ahead.
I'm not hearing you very clearly.
We can hear you quite clearly. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Caller,
okay.
Please go ahead.
I would like to use some investigation from Clinton. I would like to know, between the last 9 to 10 years, between the two administrations, what increases, the total increases that the full TUF or the police, the CSA, the teachers, what is the increases? What increases have they gotten for the last 10 years? And also, what is the rate of inflation based on the increases they have gotten over the last 10 years? Because we in the private sector, from what the little I know, the little what I have investigated myself, that nobody in the private sector is getting these kind of increases, and I've worked in the private sector all my life.
Well, let's go back. Stay with me if you have a little bit of time here. Okay, for this period, 10 to 13, we're looking at 4%. Okay?
Right.
The period before that, we're looking at 14.5%.
But how many years was that? 14.5?
No, it's triennium. It's always 3 years. It's always 3 years.
Okay, so that's 6 years.
Okay, that's 6 years. Before that, the increase was what, 0.001?
There was a 10%. There was in the circumstance, there was
but I remember there was a 10% increase.
A 10%.
Before SLP went out so far.
Okay, 10%,
increase,
right?
10%, and before
10%, and then it was 0.001. So it was 1% for that triennium.
Right.
So we're looking at 10 to 13, 4%. We're looking at 8 to 7 to 9,
7 to 10,
7 to 10. 14.5. We're looking at 4 to 7, 10%, and we're looking at 0.1 to 0.4, 1%. So in all, we're looking at increases of 18, 20, 28.5, 29.5, about 30%.
That's in the last 10 years, eh?
Yeah, around 10, 12 years, yeah.
Okay.
30% over 12 years.
Right. So the rate of, I would like to know also if you could, I don't know if you have that information.
I don't have the rate of inflation though.
Between that time period.
I will have to research that.
Because I think that's a valuable point, especially us in the private sector.
Caller, I totally agree with you, and I I have said it before that I do not think that it is the purview of the government, even though they are the employer of public servants, to divest of public lands to a very small percentage of the population. Public servants are 9,500. We have 180,000 St. Lucians. So where does that leave the rest of us? Now, I know that the police and the other public servants will take offense, but where does that leave me? That means that in addition to giving my land that I'm paying taxes on away for a lesser price, I do not even get to benefit.
Exactly.
Right?
And another point to Clinton before you go is that I have been asking and I've been doing my own investigation myself. I mean, a lot of the facts are available for, a lot of people don't read, they don't want to go and investigate. I remember a couple of years ago, apparently there was some EU funds. I'm not exactly sure exactly. I don't know. You could probably do some investigation on that, some further investigation.
You send me to a lot of homework there, man.
That were accessed by the CSA, the civil servants and the teachers. I don't know if it was to buy land
what
or
year
what
was
it was,
that?
but there were some grants.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I'm not sure, but it's between probably the last, say 15 years. There were some grants that were available to civil servants and teachers, either to buy land or for, I'm not exactly sure all the facts. I don't want to just, but I'm saying a lot of, and the sad thing is that right now, if a civil servant probably or teacher or policeman probably goes to get a loan, they'll probably faster get it than the private sector, because a lot of the private sector companies are downsizing, and that's a fact. And a lot of, I think, I understand that we have a rate of inflation and things are hard, but guess what? In the private sector, a lot of us are losing our jobs. That's the harsh reality.
Yeah.
Well, so I think, some good judgment should prevail. I mean, I applaud the police, I applaud the teachers, I applaud the borderly correctional officers. I think some good judgment should prevail, because they have a lot of stuff that are available to just the civil servants and the teachers, and that are not afforded to the private sector individuals. That's why I asked you about investigating about the funds that were available a couple of years ago. And I was told that a lot of them did access it, and a lot of them were able to purchase land and some other stuff. So it's just something for you, just some food for thought. So you do some investigation.
Yeah, we need to follow up on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I mean, after the 8 conditions, and I expressed that on the press club, that's where, I speak my mind, most times. But the condition that made most sense to me, or made any sense for that matter, was closing the gap in the pension age, and I thought that was reasonable. The others about the concessions, having me to forego $20 million in tax revenue that could be used for healthcare, it could be used for education, could be used to improve our sports, and I commented on the sport, the dearth, in the organizing and talent that we have in sports, because we just do not develop it at the beginning. So you want me to forego that as a citizen. So all these things have to be put on aside for 800 public servants. We have our last call. Good evening, caller. Thanks for holding.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I want to pose my question, not to Mr. Martin, but the other gentleman.
Mr. DeLeo.
Yes. He said one of the reasons why he pursued the 14.5 was because he found that the government was the Prime Minister was did not manage the process properly. But what I want to now ask him, while they were still negotiating, the Prime Minister came on television and said he will not pay. He's paying 4% or nothing, while he was still negotiating. That means he was not acting on his own now decision, but the Prime Minister said, this is what I am giving you. Tell me what you have to say, sir.
Thank you, caller. And I think we asked that question earlier on, but just to reiterate.
Yes. The Prime Minister's speeches to the nation, I had little difficulty with it. He was addressing the nation, not just public servants or those of us workers. When he indicated from memory that the country cannot afford and will not afford more than the 4%, okay? To me, based on the information I have, what I know is compatible with just what he said. I take no offense to the Prime Minister's speech when he addressed the nation. I did not see it as making the negotiation process any more difficult. What he said was compatible with what the GNT was saying and everything. I'm at a loss, really.
Well, I could say, I mean, I could support what the sergeant had just said. The Prime Minister addressed the nation. We were in negotiations with the GNT, and even after the Prime Minister addressed the nation, there were added benefits that came. Even I think some of the associations had not signed on to the fringe benefits and allowances and what have you, and they had not finalized it, and subsequently negotiated further. You know, and I mean, I don't know if it even affected it, but a lot of persons, I could tell you, a lot of mud have been thrown at us, and they've spoken to, we have outside influence and things of that nature, or what have you. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but what I could tell you is, we have stayed focused right through this negotiation, and we presented every fact, everything that was presented to us, and even some that was withheld from us, we were able to do our own investigations and what have you, and bring it. We found it and we brought it to our members.
Stuff like what? You know, I'd not just let that pass.
No,
what kind of information was withheld from you as an association? I'm sure that the public would want to know, because
information like the government could pay the 6%, and they have the evidence that the government could pay the 6 or the 9.5 and what have you, and where we are as a body, and that have not been presented to the body, so every leader could be on the same page and subsequently or invariably sell it to the members. That was
so it was just being said to you, but there is no evidence presented to back up what was
said. And I am not saying there isn't evidence.
But it was not presented.
It has never been presented up to now.
We cannot find it.
So at the end of the day, we had to go with the facts, and then again, we had a lot of risk involved. Let me tell you, we have fought over 25 years to get some of those benefits that we've received. And you heard the callers, you heard the first caller, and I'm telling you, this goes a long way to our hearts.
But I just before you you wrap up, I want to go back on that. You said that there's certain things that you had to dig up to find. Now you spoke to what was presented, but no evidence to back it up. From what I'm hearing, there's some other evidence that you were able to dig up, pointing to something different than what you were being told, that you have not presented here. So I'm putting that question to you. What is it that, as an association, a police welfare association, were you able to dig up that would have benefited your members in the final analysis and would have convinced them that accepting the 4% was the best option?
Let me tell you one such thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we tried our best to stay away from that, because we are not in a bashing. You realize over the past 2 weeks or so, a lot of mud have been thrown at us, as I've said to you. We've not... we're not focused on that. I'm telling you, our focus was to get the best deal for our members, and this is what we've done, and we maintain it. Meetings, I mean, you know, and I mean, you could prove that the IMF or the agents of the IMF met with the Trade Union Federation, or met with the trade unions along with government in a tripartite form, or whatever form it was. I was told of that. Up to date, up to today, I mean, we've never been given a report at the level where we're supposed to know those things, and look, a report was generated. I am certainly sure. I'm wondering if some members of the TUF were privy, or some of the information therein, they were privy to it, so they would be in a more informed position. You understand? I'm telling you,
but that was not communicated to you as a general counsel of the TUF.
I had no information. No, I had no information. I had no information. I had no information. We had no information, and I'm telling you, we were able to stay focused and justify some of the benefits that we've received.
Just some final words, to wrap up. Half a minute each, even 10 seconds, because we have gone way over time, and I want to thank my technical producer for the extra time.
Yes, to be quick, to all workers of this country, we really need to see. We have confidence in you all to do the right thing, We do not blame the CSA based on the mandate that came out today. I'm confident that what came out today was based on the information brought before them. I'd like to say hats off to Mr. DeMarc. He's been a light throughout the process. I still have a lot of confidence in Mr. Monrose, who has shown humility and do what is right in the best interest. And I think everybody's getting back on track, and this is where we need to go. We just need to stay in touch with the members of the CSA, continue to share our information with them, continue to communicate, whether it's by BB or text messaging or what have you, and share that light that we have with them. And I'm convinced at the end of the day, as one, all workers will sing to the same tune, and we can have this country back on a good footing.
Yes. Okay, I want to say thank you very, very, very much to the executive of the Police Welfare Association, and by extension the negotiating team and the members. And now that the emotions are starting to wear out, and the dust is about to clear and the clouds are about to clear, I'm certainly sure the best judgment and reason is starting to prevail and start to dominate this period. And I just need to say that we are indeed pleased that we are at this stage. We want to say hats off to our negotiating team, and thank you to the members, the majority of the members who have supported. I mean, invariably, as leaders, you may make you may be caused to take certain decisions that everybody is not happy with, but at the end of the day, your integrity and your character remains as a leader, and then we have displayed that. And I'm saying I want to implore the Police Welfare Association to continue the good work that we've been doing, and also I want to send it across to all unions and all members of the workforce. Put your country first.
Well, on that note, we'll end our program this evening. I want to thank you very much for being part of Newsmaker Live this evening on behalf of our team. Thank you for watching. I'm Clinton Reynolds. Join me next week at the same time for another program. Of course, we always have interesting programs for you. But just before we go, just to remind you that Delia Dulor Live is on tomorrow night. She will have her special guest, Barbara Jacobs-Small. So join Delia tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, right here on DBS for Dulor Factor Live. Until the weekend, Saturday night, where we discuss the news. I'm sure we'll be discussing the negotiations in more detail with journalists and providing our opinions on the developments. Till that time, I'm Clinton Reynolds. Do have a good one.